Every night while you sleep, your stomach and intestinal lining are quietly running the most sophisticated self-repair operation in your body. No drugs, no intervention, just the absence of food. The 12 hours between your last meal and your first bite of the next morning are not empty time, they are the most biologically productive hours your gastrointestinal tract will have in the entire day. Today we are going to walk through exactly what happens inside your stomach and intestinal wall during those 12 hours, mechanism by mechanism. To understand why fasting heals the gut, you first need to understand how brutal the digestive environment normally is. The pH inside your stomach ranges from 1.5 to 3.5 acid. Strong enough to denature proteins in seconds and strip the paint from steel. If you gave it long enough, your gastric mucosal cells exist inside this corrosive environment, while simultaneously receiving food boluses, secreting digestive enzymes, and withstanding constant physical abrasion. The stomach lining replaces itself entirely every 2 to 5 days. The small intestinal epithelium turns over every 3 to 5 days. The large intestinal epithelium renews itself every 5 to 7 days. This extraordinary regenerative capacity is powered by intestinal stem cells, sitting at the base of every mucosal crypt, constantly producing new epithelial cells upward. The critical discovery of the past decade is that the regenerative capacity of these stem cells surges dramatically during fasting. That is the foundation of everything that follows. The first and most fundamental mechanism is intestinal stem cell activation. A landmark study published in Cell Stem Cell found that a 24-hour fast dramatically amplified the regenerative function of LGR5 positive intestinal stem cells, the master stem cells, responsible for generating every epithelial cell in the gut lining in both young and aged mice. The mechanism was the induction of a fatty acid oxidation program. When glucose supply drops during fasting, intestinal stem cells switch to burning fatty acids for fuel, and this metabolic shift supercharges their function. Most remarkably, the fasting effect fully restored the diminished stem cell regenerative capacity seen in aged mice back to youthful levels. A 12-hour fast begins activating this fatty acid oxidation switch, progressively priming stem cells to produce higher quality mucosal cells at a faster rate. The second mechanism is the activation of the migrating motor complex, or MMC. The MMC is the gut's built-in housekeeping wave, a cyclic pattern of muscular contractions that originates in the stomach and sweeps through the entire small intestine, repeating every 90 to 120 minutes. As recorded in Wikipedia and multiple gastroenterology journals, the MMC operates exclusively during fasting and stops immediately the moment food enters the stomach. Its job is to sweep undigested food residue, bacteria, and dead cell debris from the small intestine forward into the colon. In a 12-hour overnight fast, the MMC completes at least 4 to 5 full cleaning cycles. This process removes bacterial overgrowth accumulations, the primary driver of small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or SIBO, and restores a clean environment in which digestive enzymes can function properly. In contrast, frequent snacking or short intervals between meals chronically interrupt the MMC before it can complete a full cycle, allowing bacteria to proliferate unchecked in the small intestine. Chronic MMC disruption is recognized as a major contributing factor in bloating, indigestion, and irritable bowel syndrome. The third mechanism is autophagy-driven cellular self-repair. Autophagy, the process awarded the 2016 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine, is the cell's self-digestion and recycling system. Damaged protein aggregates, dysfunctional organelles, and aged mitochondria are broken down inside the cell, and their components reused to build new functional structures. A review published in Science Direct confirmed that restrictive dietary interventions, including fasting mimicking diets, induce autophagy and promote multi-system gastrointestinal regeneration. Inside gastric mucosal cells, oxidatively damaged proteins accumulated from acid exposure, toxin proteins injected by pathogens such as Helicobacter pylori, and inflammation-damaged mitochondria are cleared through autophagy during a 12 to 16-hour fast. This is not a surface cleaning, it is a deep cellular renovation that empties the cell's waste stores and recovers raw materials for building new functional machinery. The fourth mechanism is the suppression of NF-kappa B-driven gut inflammation. Chronic gastritis, acid reflux, and irritable bowel syndrome share a common molecular denominator: persistent low-grade mucosal inflammation, driven by the nitrogen monofluoride kappa B transcription factor pathway. During fasting, the liver begins producing ketone bodies and beta-hydroxybutyrate, the primary circulating ketone, directly inhibits the NLRP3 inflammasome, blocking nitrogen monofluoride kappa B activation, and suppressing the downstream secretion of inflammatory cytokines, including IL-1 beta, IL-6, and TNF-alpha. A meta-analysis published in MDPI Nutrients found that intermittent fasting, maintained over 2 months or more, produced significant reductions in IL-6, TNF-alpha, and IL-1 beta. When the chronic inflammatory signaling that has been battering the mucosal lining quiets down, gastric epithelial cells can redirect energy previously consumed by the immune battle toward repair and regeneration. The fifth mechanism is ghrelin-mediated gastric protection. Ghrelin is popularly known only as the hunger hormone, but research published in MDPI confirms it is a multifunctional peptide with documented protective and healing effects across the entire gastrointestinal tract from the oral cavity to the colon. During fasting, gastric G cells secrete ghrelin in increasing volumes, and this ghrelin stimulates prostaglandin synthesis in gastric mucosal cells, increases mucus secretion, and improves mucosal blood flow, all actions that accelerate healing of damaged stomach lining. Ghrelin also strengthens the vagal signaling connection between the brain and gut, helping coordinate overall gastrointestinal motility and repair. The sixth mechanism is the reinforcement of tight junction proteins that prevent intestinal leakiness. Tight junctions, the molecular seals between adjacent intestinal epithelial cells, consist of proteins, including claudin, occludin, and ZO1. When these junctions loosen, partially digested food particles and bacterial endotoxins breach the intestinal barrier and enter systemic circulation, triggering the chronic full-body inflammation that underlies metabolic disease, autoimmune conditions, and mood disorders. Short-chain fatty acids, particularly butyrate produced by gut bacteria during fasting, directly upregulate the expression of claudin and occludin, tightening the barrier. Research published in Frontiers in Nutrition showed that intermittent fasting strengthens the intestinal barrier, while simultaneously stimulating secretion of the satiety hormones GLP-1 and PYY. A 12-hour fast provides the window needed for this tight junction remodeling to proceed without the disruption of new digestive activity. The seventh mechanism is the restoration of the gut's circadian rhythm. The gastrointestinal tract has its own internal biological clock, and it governs the timing of gastric acid secretion, intestinal motility, mucosal cell division, and digestive enzyme activity. Research published in a 2025 issue of Gastroenterology documented that gastric acid production rises through the day and peaks in the late evening and early night hours, and that disruption of this rhythm destabilizes the entire cycle of mucosal cell proliferation and recovery. Late night eating and irregular meal timing are the most powerful disruptors of gut circadian synchronization. Finishing the last meal by 7 to 8 p.m. and maintaining 12 or more hours of overnight fasting restores circadian alignment, allowing mucosal cell division and repair to proceed at their biologically optimal time. One safety boundary must be stated clearly. In people with active acute gastritis, active peptic ulcers, or gastrointestinal bleeding, prolonged fasting can increase unbuffered acid exposure and worsen symptoms rather than heal them. These individuals must adjust meal timing plans in consultation with a gastroenterologist, rather than following a fasting protocol independently. People with type 1 diabetes, hypoglycemia risk, those who are pregnant or breastfeeding, and adolescents under 18 should also consult their physician before making any changes. Anyone on proton pump inhibitors or H2 blockers should coordinate drug timing with their doctor when shifting meal schedules. If severe heartburn or upper abdominal pain develops during the fasting window, stop immediately and consume a small portion of warm, bland food. Every night while you are asleep, your gut is already healing itself. The only question is whether you are giving it the uninterrupted time it needs to complete the job. Finishing dinner before 7 p.m. and letting 12 hours pass before breakfast is not a restriction. It is a permission slip. It gives your intestinal stem cells the signal to regenerate, your MMC. The space to sweep the small intestine clean, your autophagy machinery the opening to clear cellular debris, your nitrogen monofluoride kappa B pathway the quiet to dial down inflammation, your ghrelin the chance to rebuild the mucosal barrier, your tight junctions, the stability to reseal, and your gut clock, the alignment to time everything correctly. 7 mechanisms, 12 hours, every single night.